Hey there. I wanted to talk for a little bit about one of my flies that I've done. It's one of my favorite topwater flies for bass. It's called the foam slice frog. So before I do that, I'll talk about this guy here. This is from a brand called Lunker Hunt, and they make this topwater frog, one of the hollow body style with the double hook there. Um, rides hook point up, and you know, lots of realism to it in its look, and then the articulated legs that will kick as you retrieve it. So I love this size and the castability of it. Um, they make bigger ones, but from a fly fishing standpoint, it would just be impossible to cast something that large. So this was kind of my model that I wanted to go with. So you can see from, you know, size wise, it's very similar in size. Got some similar colorways on it, and overall length, if you put it top to bottom, stretch out the kicker legs and my legs, they're the same length. That gold eye placed up on top of the head. So this had a lot of modeling in my efforts to make this. And then I also had cutouts and printouts of, you know, like anatomy pictures of live frogs. Well, they used to be alive, and and could overlay them with some of my designs to try to make sure that dimensionally, you know, the length of the front legs versus back legs and where they came out on the body were in alignment with the real thing. So some things I love about this frog, and one I worked on a long time to get it right, was first and foremost getting it to ride hook point up. When you're fishing around heavy cover, fishing around lily pads and sticks and stuff, having a hook point down, even if it had a weed guard on it, what happens is when it comes up over a lily pad or something, is then it forces the fly to roll over, and now your fly is typically upside down, and then as it comes back off the lily pad, it's upside down or it's not acting right. So I did not want that. I wanted a hook up. So even if this came over a lily pad, as it slides off the lily pad, it's still fishing in the proper orientation. And I have found that to be super helpful with getting strikes, you know, fishing it over those heavy cover and having it be in the right alignment has been crucial for me. The dual weed guard on here allows it to be fished in that slop and be, you know, fairly aggressive with it. It's you know, pretty protective. I've tried to eliminate most of the snag points on the front of the fly. You see too many flies, topwater stuff especially, where there's just like lips and mouth parts and all kinds of stuff that weeds and junk gets caught in, and this being fairly smooth across the front has eliminated a lot of the catch points for weeds and whatnot to get caught on. One of the things maybe that I worked on the longest was, because I wanted it to ride hook up, I needed a counterweight. So first determining which size weight I needed, and then where on this fly it needed to sit was the second problem to solve. I didn't want this fly to just sit horizontally on the surface. I wanted it to sit at an angle, because real frogs, their eyes are sticking out of the water and their legs are splayed out in a nice relaxed fashion. That was something I didn't like about this, is because in a stopped or rested position, those legs look super unnatural to me, and I don't think they look like the real thing. A real frog's legs would be stretched out, relaxed, and then if they need to propel, then they pull forward and propel. They don't sit like this. So having those legs splayed out in a natural, relaxed motion, the fly sitting at an angle with the eyes out of the water, that's what this counterweight does for this hook and this fly size. The other thing is if for some reason when you're casting, if it did land upside down, almost immediately it will right itself because of the positioning of the hook and the weight. So if it doesn't, one twitch usually rights it, so it'll slide over and get into the right fishing position. So one other thing about this is the bottom of a real frog, the belly of a real frog, is really creamy, buttery, kind of in coloration. And I tried lots of different UV powders and all kinds of stuff to try to get the look that I wanted on this. The thing that I ended up going with was the glow powder that Rio uses in its glow-in-the-dark fly lines. And so using that same powder, I can achieve the color I wanted, but I can also then charge this up with a UV light or a camera flash or whatever, and it will really stay lit up for I think 15 minutes or so, and then it will fade out. But it can be, you know, something fun to use in low light conditions, early morning or late evening, even night. I think, you know, getting the eye placement up on top gave it some realism, but it also allowed those eyes to just stick up out of the water when this is sitting at rest. And of course the legs will move all over when you fish it. The other nice feature about the double weed guard is when you want these long legs, you can't have it catching on the hook. And this will typically just slide off of that weed guard. Every once in a while they sneak inside there and get caught, and no fly is perfect in that way, but this double weed guard has really helped prevent the legs coming from either side. If it was a single weed guard, I kept noticing that one leg would get caught more than the other, so going to the double solved that and helped prevent it from fouling. So I fish this with at least a 7-weight rod, and I like a short leader, like 4 to 6 feet. If I start to get longer than that, I feel like this isn't turning over, isn't fishing the way I want. I can't control it. I can't get the accuracy that I like out of it. So, you know, this is a fairly heavy fly, and it needs some stout leader and shortness to turn it over and to kind of control, especially when you're fishing those tight situations, trying to hit it between 2 lily pads or a little opening amongst the debris against the back of a lake. You need to be able to drive this thing in there and you know, be fairly aggressive with your cast. The way I also really like to fish it, and I think is proved important, is when I drive it into some spot, is I like to leave it. I like to let it sit. I like to let a 10 count happen, let all those kind of rings die out. And what I was noticing, and why I kind of came to that, was I'd fish heavier slop and I'd splat it down in the slop, and as those rings would die out, I would see, you know, commotion or nervous water as a fish pushed in underneath it, and they wouldn't eat it. They'd just kind of come in, try to figure out where it was or what it was. They're very curious fish, and I would just slightly move it, and all of a sudden the explosion would happen. And so I started slowing down and fishing it like that. So cast it wherever it is, and give it a 10 count. I've found that at 7 seconds is kind of the magic, so I just go 3 extra seconds to see if anything's there, and if it's not, then I start my retrieve. My retrieve is then just make it move a tiny bit at first, see if there's a curious fish looking at it, and if not, then I do long, slow strips to mimic a swimming frog. This is not a popper. I do not recommend anyone fish it like a popper. It's not designed to fish like a popper. It's meant to fish still or very slow in long, slow retrieves, slow stop. When you retrieve it, it'll go kind of horizontal like that, and then as soon as you stop, it'll tip back down and sit at that angle in the water. It'll pull up and then tip back down. So it very much can look like a swimming frog in the water. So yeah, that's the foam slice frog. It comes in 3 colors. So we've got that chartreuse green that we call northern leopard, and then we have an olive green that's southern leopard, and then we have a black version that kind of your night ops version. So if you're fishing really low light, just go with the black one. The color doesn't matter at that point. You're looking for silhouette. So anyway, the foam slice frog, it's available from Rio, and all kinds of fly shops out there carry it. So what I would love to know is if you fish it, how you're doing with it. Send me pictures, tell me stories, maybe something that you don't like about it, maybe I can make an improvement on it. But anyway, it took me about a year to get to this, this finished product. I felt pretty good about it, and I hope you can enjoy it too. We're getting into that season where topwater bass fishing is going to get more and more important, and it will go into the fall depending on where you live. So anyway, give it a try. Thanks. Bye.